Yeah, I saw him. He slowed down when these guys went through.
We're talking about a driver that was coming out when we were heading out of the parking lot. My brother missed the weather this morning. He's a little chilly.
He zipped up, man. He's shivering.
I told him he was shivering. He needs to zip up. On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton, rolled into the woodlands. I had a flat on the way to meet the group. As soon as we got there, we repaired it and we headed out on Research Forest, Fishcreek, lots of action. We filmed the entire way until we got to 2854. And then Paul and I continued past Montgomery. The group stopped at Taco Corner. We went out into the forest. All of that is off camera. It was just extremely windy. So we really worked a lot harder. It took us actually 30 minutes longer to do this route than normal. We came back down on Bethel. Paul had missed a lot of workouts during the week, so we went ahead and took the guerrilla route, kind of got him some extra Ks. Came back on Johnson Road to Lone Star Parkway behind the school, and then we took Keenan Cutoff, went through the neighborhood, trying to avoid the teeth of the south wind. The wind was blowing very heavily from the southeast, and it was just really gusting. In fact, the entire weekend was noted for its winds, because even on Sunday, it was even more blustery than today. But I think you will love the clips we got for you. Well, Research Forest Blvd, we just left the parking lot. That's Mike Barrera standing up there. That's Rick asking Paul whether we're doing the Grand Fondo tomorrow. There's a Grand Fondo on Sunday, the day after this ride. I had looked it up, but we had not planned to do it. For one thing, I'll probably make a different video about it. These Grand Fondos are getting out of hand. They're pricing them to the point where we're paying almost double what we used to pay a few years ago. And they claim, oh, it's for charity. My issue with it is, look, we've got expensive cycling gear, we've got inexpensive cycling gear. So it's not a barrier for people entering the sport. But if all the Grand Fondos keep jacking up their prices like they are, you're not going to grow our sport. It's going to become too exclusive. It's just getting out of hand. And then a lot of them, oh, it's for charity. If the weather changes, they want to keep your money. They don't refund your money. So you're just, throwing money away. Not everybody can do that. It's going to keep this sport too small. And we need this sport to grow, not shrink. So we're heading out here on Research Forest. I like to use the road. I had just repaired a rear flat. It's one of those where you're riding and your tires just getting progressively softer, and you end up I bounce on the rear, bounce on the saddle to feel it, and I could tell. So it's one of those where we took the time, we removed the tire. The Vittoria G2.0 Graphene is a good tire. I love Vittoria tires because they're easy to get off the rim. We took it off the rim to make sure there was nothing embedded in the tire, because as soon as we rolled into the parking lot, I just fixed it. Because it was just, Paul asked me how the tires felt, and I told him we must have put about 85 with our pump, because I usually ride 90. It felt great. These little pumps that we carry, they work really well. I'm so glad to not have to carry canisters of CO2 anymore.
I just missed it, man.
Yeah, we're talking about the weather. He said he just missed it. He just didn't check. And it was just, it's cold. You see, it's 6 Celsius. But the thing about this day, it went from 6 Celsius to 30 Celsius by the time we're done. So we have a lot of varying temperatures, and it's time for arm warmers, leg warmers. So I've got knee warmers on. I'm telling him to just stay behind me, avoid the wind, and in a little bit he should warm up once we get rolling on the open road. Just the effort alone. So Mark had announced that he was doing this ride as a warm-up because he's doing the Grand Fondo the next day. I didn't know there was a Grand Fondo, so once he mentioned it, I pulled up the name of the ride, because there's a site you can go on and check all the rides in Texas. And I was like, they had set it up to where, I guess if you paid in January, it started at 40 and then progressively went up to where it was like double. I mean, you know, in other parts of the country, you end up paying like $250. Like our MS 150 starts at $400. You don't get anything for that. And then they want you to get donations. You know, they're trying to raise money for MS. Yeah, that's great. It's a good cause. But why are you starting at $400? It's a bike ride. You know, it's out of hand, because that's a barrier to entry for a lot of people. When I did the MS back in the day, I did not harass anybody for donations. I just paid and did the ride. I don't have the time to bug people. So a lot of riders don't do that ride because of the cost. You know, this Grand Funder, we've done it before. They call it now the Texas Grand Funder, but it started the same venue that the RDPC used to use. You know, your salaries have not doubled in a couple of years. And there are 2 cars up there almost ran into each other. Only 2 cars on the road, and they're almost bumping each other. The guy was changing lane without checking. That's why I was telling Paul. The 2 of you on the planet running into each other. You know, but we've got to keep that in mind. As these prices go up for events, it will hurt our sport. And, you know, down here, like Moore was saying, you know, he does a lot of racing. The people that show up for the races have reduced dramatically over the years. It's not just because of the cost. It's just not that big over here like it is, you know, in continental Europe. So they need to come up with a different way to get more people out to these events. You know, Grand Fondo's not a race, but if you start charging more than USCF races do, you're not gonna have too many people showing up. So you will just have the people who can afford to pay to get in. You know, that doesn't help the growth of the sport. You can hear the wind. It is just out here. So I made sure today that I stayed in the pace line. You'll see when we get to the open road, I drafted real religiously people who let gaps open. I sat behind them. If they didn't close them timely enough, I made my move and closed it. That's how you save your energy. You're saving your energy because even if you feel great one moment, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to just waste all your energy because you're feeling good right now. You don't know how you're going to feel in a few minutes from that moment. That's the thing about cycling. Until the ride is over, you always have to save it. Save something. I'm even wearing my full-fingered gloves. So by the time it got to about 24 Celsius, about 75 degrees, I just took the gloves off and put them in my pocket. I'd much rather be comfortable in the morning than dressing for 4 hours later.
It's okay, we got it sorted.
Yeah. Get behind me now.
Yeah.
Avoid that wind, you'll warm up.
I'm glad that I keep my chain clean. That's just a habit. We changed that tire with no hassles. I didn't have to wear anything on my hands. I pulled those gloves off to make the change. I'm suggesting to Paul that he stop in the sun to try to stay warm because he's wearing a very breathable mesh Pactimo jersey. I'm wearing my Pactimo thermal pocket bibs. I was very comfortable on this ride, no problems. That's Rick on the right there. I'm not sure what kind of shorts they are that he's wearing. I don't know if they're mountain bike shorts or whatever. But Rick never really finishes the ride. He ended up turning around.
It happens.
Paul and Sam are talking. That's Sam next to Paul. Sam used to come out on the rides often, and then he said he's overdressed. Paul said, I missed it today. That's what they're talking about. Sam is dressed like it's gonna stay at 6 Celsius. Well, it's one of these days where the temperatures jumped quickly. So you needed something that was very breathable. I had studied the weather. I had walked outside, so I knew that until about 10 a.m., it was going to be pretty cool. So I'm wearing a lightweight, the Pactimo base layer that goes from like 35 Fahrenheit to 85 Fahrenheit. That's what I'm wearing. I believe I'm wearing the sleeveless one because I'm wearing this GSM jersey. So I was able to wear this GSM jersey all the way up to 33 Celsius. Yeah, it wasn't super comfortable at that point. We're at the end of the ride, but I didn't need to roll up the sleeves or anything. It was just a very unusual day as far as the range in temperatures. So I ended up taking off my leg warmers probably around noon, my knee warmers, and just folding them and putting them in my pocket. So as I was saying earlier, I run about 90 PSI in my tires. I really enjoy the suppleness of them. And when we did the repair, we were probably able to get about 85 in there before your arms get tired with that little pump. But we're talking about Tadej Pogačar. Those of you who may have seen the Tour of Flanders, that was like Merckx-like riding. He just poured it on. He made the race. He wasn't thrilled about the result, but he forced the pace.
Those are the other Tour de France winners. They wouldn't get in shape till like July. This guy is in the top 5 in all these big races early in the season.
Yeah.
They're riding themselves into shape. This guy comes ready to win. You know,
That's Tadej Pogačar. That's how Merckx used to ride. Merckx would win throughout the year. He didn't just wait for the Tour.
Powers as a post. But they called it the capital. It's a hell of a rider.
But to the defense of those other riders like Le Monde and what's his name, Indurain and so forth, when you don't live in Europe and you have to leave home and go there to make a living, it's hard on you. The cultural change and everything. So they would come home and, you know, wind down, spend time with their family and do other things. So it was a different kind of thing versus if they were living on the continent permanently. So, you know, it would be just as difficult for those guys to race in the U.S. having lived in Europe all the time and then come here just to race and have to go back home. It wouldn't be easy. So it's the same stuff. Yeah, when we got to the beginning of the ride, we got to the ride start, and Mark asked, he said, "Are you guys ready to ride slow?" That's Mark up there on the right in the vest that's turning right, in the chartreuse vest. So he said, "You guys ready to ride slow?" I said, "We always ride slow." Dan, who was in front of me on the left, did not agree. No, you guys don't. You know, we don't really kill ourselves. We condition ourselves really well, but we don't always do structured stuff. Takes the fun out of it. There's a time for that. At this point, we're just setting in to see what they want to do because the ride was supposed to be slow. You know, everybody says that, but then you never know. It's never that way. There's a guy up there named Logan that's pulling. He's going to pull a good percentage of the way out there. But what I want to talk about is that when you're following people, you need to pay attention to the gaps. If they're leaving gaps, don't let it grow too large before you go around them. You will see me later in about probably 10 kilometers close a gap on the overpass. They just didn't want to do the work, and these guys were just riding away. So it's very windy, so I'm not going to waste my energy because I know we're going to be out here at least 7 hours. Every little bit matters, so I'm sitting in. I think at this point I've already had a gel, because in the mornings I don't have appetite for a lot of solids until like maybe mid-morning. So I usually drink electrolytes. I'll take a gel just to wake up my system. When you have a ride, make sure you allow enough time for your pre-ride preparation. It doesn't have to be a grand fondo or a race for you. You should have a routine for all your rides. You know, you should have time to take your health breaks before you get dressed if you need to. Drink coffee, whatever it is you're into, drink some juice, whatever, you know, ease into your morning so that you're not rushed and anxious. I use the other days of the week, as I mentioned it before, to do all my little running around. I keep Saturdays free. This is the longest day on the bike for me most of the time, so I keep it free. I don't get off the bike and go run errands. That's the time to recover. Because you don't have to ride hard to need to recover. A long ride can be hard on you. So my goal in this part of the ride is to keep my effort down. And I'm just focusing on making sure that I stay close. I'm putting on the glasses. When we leave, it's dark. So I had them on the back of my head. And I just realized I do those kind of things quickly. And you saw that I left a little bit of gap to those guys in front of me as I sat up. So I didn't have to worry about their wheels. Put my glasses on, put my hands back on the bars. Do not be in the pace line doing hands-free stuff unnecessarily. Just only do what is necessary and keep your hands on the bars. I spend a lot of time when I have some downtime. I watch a lot of the old races in Europe on YouTube or some of the recent races, and I see these guys making so many careless mistakes that I don't understand as professionals. They take a lot of risks. They're just very careless. Like, you go through the feed zone, you get a musette. They take all the food out. This one guy was throwing the musette away. The musette grabs his bars while he's throwing it away. The strap hooks the bar, and he goes down. I'm like, really? An empty bag. So it's like, they don't pay attention. So some of their falls are preventable. But you know, the guys in their 20s, you know, at that age, you feel like you're Superman and invincible. So some of the crashes I see, I'm like, come on, guys. You're making all of us look bad. They do some stuff like one time there was a guy trying to adjust his brakes and his hand got caught in the spokes. Dude, stop and adjust your brakes. When that wheel's moving, you gotta be extra cautious getting your hands near it. I've had the tire grab my hand. I was trying to do something, I don't remember, a long time ago. And I was fortunate enough to get my hand out of there before it really grabbed it. But you can break your hand or some, your wrist or something trying to be cool. No. You want to put your hand near a moving wheel, you need to be extra cautious. It's better to just stop and do it, or wait till you can stop. There's no cool points for injuring yourself. I never on-clipped. I just kind of soft pedaled back there. The light has changed.
Logan will pull us all the way to Taco if we let him.
Well, Mark is saying that if Logan will pull us all the way to Taco Corner, which is where they're headed, if we let him. My thing is, that's what he wants to do. That's great. Let him sit there. This way he can work hard, and the rest of the people who are drafted properly can sit in.
Yeah.
Now, right here, Mike Weingrass on the right. Those of you who've been following these films, Mike Weingrass likes to run his mouth. I don't know whether he comes to ride or whether he comes to a comedy club. He always got something to say. I don't know what they're talking about. Look at the riders up the road. I see the gap. I'm just sitting in, keeping my gears low right now. I want to warm up my body. That's why I'm spinning like that. I'm not going to spin like that too long. But my thing is, if you're going to leave that gap there, you'll sit in the wind. We'll follow you here and see. I want to see how long they let that happen. I don't know what they're talking about, but he loves chatting. In about probably 12 or 13 kilometers, he starts to make a comment. You don't hear it because at that time, Paul Ilonga has ridden up the road. You'll see it because we're filming. And he starts to make a comment about, oh man, I like your color combination and this and that. And I'm like, you know, for him in particular, instead of him just saying, hey man, nice kit. No, he wants to act like, yeah, I put the outfit together. I know what it looks like. I like it. It's not, the speeches are not necessary. It's not an accident. I'm wearing what I want to wear. So if you like, hey man, nice kid, that's enough. No, he acts like he's at the laugh stop. He wants to make a grand speech. So in mid-sentence, he's behind me saying that. I just ride off up to Paul and them who are up the road. It's time to ride. So he has to hush up. Then later on Milrod, he gets the chance to say, he said it to Mark. Oh yeah, we should give Eldred style points for best dress, and then Dan is this. So he's doing all that talking, and then off camera, of course, he pays the price because it takes energy when you should be breathing properly and focusing on what you're doing to run your mouth. So when it really matters, he gets dropped. I mean, we're off camera at that point. But the thing is that he loves to chatter. There's always somebody like that. And sometimes I'm like, man, just hush and ride your bike. So I don't participate in his conversations. I just say nothing. And after a while, he moves on to somebody else to chat with. It's too much talking. This is time to ride. When we were out there warming up, that was the time to talk. So now here it is. He's sitting in the wind. And you will see in a few kilometers when we hit the overpass, he doesn't have the power to stay with the guys who are leading the group. And leaves a huge gap. So I just ride around him. So all this energy that he's wasting here, he pays the price. You'll see it. That's the point I'm trying to make. Get to the group ride, sit in and work. When it's your turn at the front, you will be fresher and you'll be able to help your group along. When you're warming up, the pace is slow, yeah, you can chat. But right now, this is not the time to chat. This road is going up. We're doing almost 20 miles an hour. And that wind is blowing. So both of them are sitting side by side. That takes a lot of energy. They should be on those guys' wheels up the road there. So I know that the guys are not that far ahead. So I'm just sitting and I'm watching the whole thing. My attitude, you leave the gap, you're going to close it. So right here, Dan is going to lift the pace because we're going through the light here. He's going to lift the pace and get on those guys' wheels. Like he's tired of sitting in the wind. All I'm focused on is making sure I'm not wasting energy. That's what drafting is about. Let the other people sit out there and act cute. The human body has a finite amount of energy. You waste it when you need it, it may not be there. I am less than a foot away from the wheel of Mike Barrera. Mike rides very smoothly. He's experienced, so I follow him closer than other riders who are squirreling. I'm approaching sweet spot in the draft. Now, well, Dan has gotten on the wheel of, I believe is Rick. So they're not talking anymore. This road is lumpy, it's exposed, that wind's out here. And all I'm doing is looking for the draft. Five Celsius, it's cold. I don't know if it's here, but yeah, right here, I start to stand. This just felt good on this ride. Every now and then I'll do that. Just stand, let my cadence drop down a bit. You can see I'm putting out good watts. But that rhythm just felt good. I didn't feel like spinning up these little bumps. I had really good legs this morning. I had recovered well. During the week, I was tired. On one day when I was supposed to ride, I just felt tired. So I just rested. I just didn't ride. Don't force yourself to go out on a ride. It's not a job. And even if it's a job, if you're tired, you're tired. If you must go, make it very easy. I just took the day off and just relaxed. And I'm glad I did, because on this ride, I felt fresh. I'm sitting where I'm getting the best draft right now. The wind is coming a little from the left. So I put it in the proper gear and just get a rhythm. So when you stand, you should not be drifting back to the person behind you. You stand on the downstroke, and when you sit, the same thing. I did not pedal because I saw that they were already coasting. They go very hard up those bumps, then they back off the power instead of just keeping it steady and keep riding. And just, you know, pedal on the downhill as well, or, you know, when it flattens out, keep pedaling. In lieu of braking, I just coast and let the bike slow down. So every time I stand, I avoid having to downshift. I can just turn the same gear, especially as a mild grade. You know, we're not talking 5%. This thing gets up to maybe 2 to 3. Anything above 4%, yeah, you're climbing. 1 to 3, they're little bumps. So that's Mike still running his mouth, and Dan is sitting behind the wheels. He had backed off a little bit, and side by side, he had something to say. And so you will see we're approaching the overpass. On the overpass, he's going to sit there, and those guys are going to ride away from him, and he's just sitting there. So I go to the right on the overpass and just close the gap quickly. So when you're riding in a pace line, if you're going to fall off the pace like you're going to see him do, either you get out of the line, drift back, wave the other people up as a courtesy. I think that's better than to just sit there and let a gap open, because you're going to have to close that gap, and that takes more energy. They're fortunate on this ride. We really weren't trying to ride away, but that's how you lose out on the top action. You let those kind of gaps open and people go over the top and force the pace, you're not getting back. Stay in the wheels. You're gonna be in the wheels, stay close. There's no point in being cute and letting gaps open, and then you're working just as hard as you would have been if you were at the front pulling. So Logan is still pulling up there. He's gonna pull off in a little bit. And he pulls off before the overpass. You don't see me drinking because I drink before I leave home, and it's a cool morning. It's about 43, 45 degrees Fahrenheit. They're about 44 Fahrenheit. So I drink before we head out to make sure I'm ahead already. Now, of course, I drink off the bike. That's just a routine I follow. Because in this temperature, we'll ride about 5 or 6 hours before we run out of fluids, even though the temperature changed dramatically. If it stays cool for most of the time, we don't even need to stop for any fluids. And by that time, when we're stopping, we just stop at a park and get water. We're approaching the overpass, and these lumps before the overpass, you've got to try to keep your rhythm consistent. That really helps your engine. Don't start spinning like a hamster down here and then you get there and you're in oxygen debt. That doesn't help you. This is where you're going to see Mike allow the gap to open. He's sitting next to Dan like we're warming up. And this is a climb where those guys are pulling away from them. So I've got my eye on the gap. That's why you see me on the right. I'm watching to see if they're gonna try to close, and they're not. Those guys are already up the road. In a little bit, I'm gonna just kick and go up there. Right about here. Right there. I just kick and go up. We can sit and chat. They're about 600 and some watts. I turned off the power as soon as I got up there. It's a quick burst. I get up there, turn off the power. That's the whole idea. Don't waste energy. So Paul goes around them. I could see Paul coming up in my mirror. It's kind of a subdued ride. I mean, you know, Mark advertised he wanted to ride slow and so forth. So if we were really riding after that move, they wouldn't have been able to come back. So don't let gaps like that open. It's a waste of energy. Because the gap he allowed to open, you see, Dan is with these guys. Dan was talking to, he was trying to talk to Dan. Dan knew better than to leave a gap. Dan stayed with those guys. It takes less energy to stay up there than to try to close a gap, because you got to ride faster than the people you're catching up to. That's what doesn't make sense. If you plan on staying with them anyway, just sit in on the wheels. Why let a gap open if you know that you're going to have to spend more energy to close back? It's one thing if you're at your limit and you have to let a gap open, fine. That happens. But you leave a gap open, then you chase and close it. Then you continue to do that. How many times do you think you can do that in a ride? Not very many. That's not efficient at all. So I've got my eye on the mirror because I know we're turning. I'm going to keep my eye on the mirror to make sure when it's clear, I'll move over. We're approaching Capitol Hill Road. You see me drift in the lane. It's clear. Even if you're in a group, you got to be looking out as if to say you're riding solo. Don't just do everything the group does. Double check. There's a car up. and Mark called it. He went by, we turned. I'm gonna stand and kick because this is a bump. When you turn, it rises about 2%. And I want to make sure I'm in the wheels. I'm not wasting any energy. I leave a little more gap here with this road full of a lot of patina, a lot of holes. So I want to see around these guys to navigate and get my own line. I'm not following them directly. Then we come across a couple of cyclists here. I'll give them plenty of room. I don't like to pass people I'm not riding with closely. And this is the way the line is supposed to look. You see Dan is sitting to the side as well. He wants to see the road because of these bumps. Now I can see between them, so I don't need to move over too much, but you can see me avoiding the worst of it. Saves your wheels. We really should be riding instead of coasting down this hill. So up until this point, the ride has been fairly, easy really, which was the goal Mark wanted. He said he was warming up. It was an easy ride. We just came to ride with them to start our ride. They're going to be heading back from Taco. The road starts to kick up here. And right about here, we're really starting the ride. I begin to enjoy the ride here. You got a slight grade, it's nice and smooth. Pace is decent. Anything above 300 watts, 260 plus, good range. So we're echeloning at the front here because that wind is pounding from the right in this direction anyway. And the winds will shift on us. That's why the temperatures change. So Mark wants to make sure we got everybody. Now the people that we ended up passing will come and pass us. Everybody's here. So I do a U-turn on the left because he has us to wait. So I turn left the other way. Paulie Longa turns here with the camera right, which is where we're going. I just did a U-turn over there. And then I ended up telling him, which you don't hear, that we're here. Let's go, because he wants to count and make sure everybody, we're all here. Let's go. I don't want to stop. You can see now my cadence is picking up a bit. This is where Mike Weingrad wants to make a comedic comment about my outfit, some big speech about, oh man, I like the color combination or what. I just rode off.
How was your week, Paul? Good. Good to see you again. All right.
So you see me ride up there. Paulie Longa is going to come around. We got right up there and I'm pulling. I'm going ahead and taking the lead. Logan's up the road. Those are the cyclists that we passed that have passed us since we stopped in that corner and make sure everybody was going. This is Paulie Longa riding past me and the rest of the group and coming up to Logan. In a little bit, I'm going to come around because that's when Mike Weingrass starts talking about, oh, I like your color coordination and all that. I'm like, I'm not interested in pointless conversation here. I just took off, and you will see me come on Paul's left, and Logan will probably see me because he's going to move over right about here because I'm going to get in front of Paul and get on Logan's wheel to keep the pace up. Keep it hard. And nobody gonna be talking about nothing when they can't breathe. You hear that? Color coordination. That's when I rode up. I didn't want to hear that. I rode up and got on Logan's wheel. I know what colors I coordinated. I hate phony conversations, pointless conversations. If you're not real, don't waste my time. Just to be talking for talking's sake. Sometimes it's best to just be quiet, ride your bike, or whatever it is you're doing. Just save your words unless they mean something. So he's behind Paul. I rode up, got on Logan's wheel. Logan is interested in riding, not chatting about useless stuff. You hear the wind. I'm sitting on Logan's wheel real closely. You gotta draft closely. A foot or less is best. The faster you go, the closer you get. Because when you're going fast, it's actually very safe because nobody's messing around. It's when you guys slow down that crashes happen because everybody's horseplaying. Logan didn't slow down. I checked and let the other guys know it's clear. I didn't want to just blast through there. We had a lot of people behind us. So he waits up a little bit. I just keep the tempo going. I figured it'll ride up. And I'm going to go ahead and ride up to him. Then once he sees that I'm there, he goes ahead and lifts the pace. I figure I'll sit on him till he's done pulling and then I'll take over. Just to keep the pace high. We're approaching the climb in the distance there. It's about 3.5, almost 4%. And it's nice and long. It's a good climb. You get a good workout on it. It's not a very long climb. It might be 45 seconds, maybe. I haven't timed it. But we're on the climb here. I think Logan ends up standing. I just remain seated. I like the gear I have. I like the rhythm I have. I just put more force in the pedals. $490 watts. That's pretty good. Very good pace. The road levels off, is going to start going downhill. I'm so close to him now, I'm soft pedaling. I drift a little to the left because I'm getting sucked along there. You see the gap between me and that guy versus Paulie Longa? He needs to be closer. I don't know why he hangs back so much. He wastes a lot of energy. Look at my wheel versus where Logan's wheel is. Before we'll get another shot at it, you can see I am right on him. Makes a big difference. That's why I'm soft pedaling. I'm so close to him, I can soft pedal, drift a little to the side, let the wind slow me down, and still maintain the gap. It's a grade in this corner, so you have to be in the proper gear. He pulls wide, which tells me he doesn't want to be up front. You can see 4% in that corner. I maintain the same tempo he was maintaining. Avoid the urge, unless you're attacking, to lift the pace dramatically when you get to the front in your group, because then you don't encourage the other riders to work with you. If you guys are doing where people launching attacks, that's different. But if you're just maintaining your pace line, then keep the speed steady. you will cover more ground. And everybody can find a rhythm. That's a different kind of pace line. Different kind of riding. And if somebody attacks, then you can decide whether you're gonna go with them or just maintain the group's pace. Because if they can't maintain their attack, you guys will catch them. Or you all can work together and chase him down. Meaning, he attacks to, like, let's say, I'm gonna use speed. 27 miles an hour, you guys are doing 24. Maybe you just hold 25 or so. And you guys work together and you will pull it back. This road has a lot of patina, so I'm looking for the smoothest pieces of pavement. I'm right at the sweet spot of this effort. And I'm keeping it there because the group leader had announced that he was warming up for his grand fondo the next day, and that's the pace they're doing. I figure if somebody wants to go faster, they'll come around. I'm holding their pace. Turning left on Mill Route. And people always fall behind in these corners. I'm not sure why. They never follow close. You're back there, I can see the gaps. So right here, Paul attacks. And he says, come on. But it's like, I'm looking behind. Those guys are on me. I don't want to pull them up to him. You see that? So they're coming, I figure let them come by, and then I'll slip back in. Because I'm behind them right now. They're coming up to him. I think that's Mike Barrera. Paul expended a lot of energy here. He ended up paying for it in a few kilometers. So that's Mike Barrera on the side there. So Paul drifts back to the back of the bunch. Mike's pulling, that's Logan. And then that's Dan. There's Mike Weingrab running his mouth, talking about who's gonna get best dressed and all that crap. Who cares about all that? That's just nonsense. That's what I'm talking about. You know, shallow conversations are just useless. They're meaningless. You got nothing tangible to say. Just hush and ride your bike. This road here at Mill Route has a lot of bumps, and I like it because if you come here, you got to work. it's up or down. Doesn't have a whole lot of flat spots, you know. Like right here is going up. You can see 300 some watts. That's a good effort. I keep my cadence up. And that's the thing. Once you go up, it levels up, starts to go down, and look, in the distance, it goes up, curves. So you get a good workout on this road. see where I am. You see where the line is. This road is very narrow. Once I said car back, I lined up all the way to the side so this driver can have room to pass. He's waiting till he can see because there's a curve and there's downhill. So there's a limited sight distance right here. When you're sitting in a group, you're not always putting out big watts. So if all you do is just sit in a group, you're not going to get a great workout. You got to get your nose out there and work. The road goes up, you can see the watts going up. That's how you have to ride. You have to stay tight. You see the wind flipping Mark's Chile here? That wind's there. Even with the shelter of the trees, it's there. And the wind creates load. That's the drag you have to deal with that makes pedaling difficult and generating the speed you need. That's what makes you use more watts. So if you're not drafting properly, you're creating more work for yourself. Because the only point where everybody is working is when the road goes up, for the most part. On a flat road, you can sit in and cheat, save some energy. That's the whole point of riding in the group. This is 2854. We turn right. I realize they're not stopping, so I stand on the pedals and dance on them, get up there. So if you haven't saved your energy, this is what gets you. You can get dropped here like this. When they accelerate like that, you got nothing left to get up there. That's the reason why you got to save a little something all the time. And because I did what I did, now my watts have dropped. We're not going very slow. We're doing 22, 23. This is a slight ninja grade into the wind. So a 2% climb, 35 kilometers an hour, that's about 22, 23 miles an hour. That's a good effort. But because I'm drafting, look at my watts. 200 and something, and then sometimes be like 180 or whatever. It flips around. But because of the draft, I'm saving a lot of energy. I'm just a little above sweet spot. This is where Paulie Longa lets us go. He's paying for his efforts earlier, when he rode up to that guy on Ribbon Chapel and when he also came around me on Mill Rock. So he decided to back off the power. I was not aware. I just stayed in and kept riding. So I don't know about you, how you spent your weekend, but this is part of what we did on Saturday. Remember, get your K's in, and no matter what, keep those doctors far.